A very merry and blessed Christmas to all of you. We've had a long journey through the season of Advent in the month of December. And if we engage in the season of Advent, we're challenged to slow down and to be more prayerful, to turn away from sin, and to begin to invest more in our relationship with Jesus. And yet we probably find that the month of December is still filled with lots of distractions and anxieties, and all the shopping and all the partying and the feasting that we're supposed to try to back off from still seems to creep into our lives. We might find ourselves even tonight realizing that as we approach Christmas, we're still overwhelmed. Maybe we feel unprepared and still facing lots of worries and anxieties that come with the materialism and the consumerism of the gift giving in our secular world. In the midst of all that, we come together to worship the Lord on this great feast of Christmas, and we hear so often the story of Christmas over and over, year after year. It's in movies, it's in Christmas music, and it becomes so familiar to us that whether or not we are regular Sunday Mass attendees or going to Mass is about a Christmas and Easter experience, we could all probably explain to someone briefly what the Christmas story is and summarize it. And the danger with that is the familiarity of the Christmas story can be encrusted around a lot of sentimentality, and we can begin to be in danger of losing the true meaning of Christmas and the impact that the Christmas reality is meant to have in our lives. And so I'd like to do this evening is to hopefully offer us a challenge to hear the Christmas story anew with hearts open and with fresh ears. And so I'd like to begin with a question. I want to ask, what does Christmas celebrate? What does Christmas celebrate? Now, any baptized Christian would probably say right away, well, it's Jesus' birthday. And little children certainly know that answer very well, and in some churches maybe this evening they're singing happy birthday to Jesus, and that's true. It is Jesus' birthday. But I would say that it doesn't really capture really what Christmas is. The Feast of Christmas celebrates this reality. God became a baby. Christmas celebrates the reality that God became a baby. And so the next question is, why? So what? Who cares? If I don't have a relationship with Jesus, why should I care that today is his birthday? Why would God become a baby? And of all the ways which he could have saved us, why would he become a baby? And so in order to think about this question, I want to offer this evening and read to you a short story that was shared by an ABC News broadcaster by the name of Paul Harvey. I'd like to share that story with you now. Paul Harvey says, "The man I'm going to tell you about was not a Scrooge. He was a kind, decent, mostly good man, generous to his family and upright in his dealings with other men. But he just didn't believe in all of that incarnation stuff that the churches proclaim at Christmas time. It just didn't make sense, and he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He just couldn't swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. So he told his wife, 'I'm truly sorry to distress you, but I'm not going with you and the children to church this Christmas Eve.' He said he would feel like a hypocrite and that he would much rather just stay at home, but that he would wait up for them. So he stayed, and they went to the midnight service. Shortly after, the family drove away in the car. Snow began to fall. He went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier, and then went back to his fireside chair and began to read his newspaper. Minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound, then another, then another. At first, he thought someone must be throwing snowballs against the living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled outside miserably in the snow. They'd been caught in the storm, and in a desperate search for shelter, they'd tried to fly through his large landscape window. This is what had been making the sound. Well, he couldn't just let the poor creatures just lie there and freeze, so he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. That would provide warm shelter, and all he would have to do is direct the birds into the shelter. And quickly, he put on his coat and galoshes, and he tramped through the deepening snow to the barn. He opened the doors wide and turned on a light so the birds would know the way in. But the birds did not come in. So he figured that food would entice them. He hurried back into the house and fetched some breadcrumbs. He sprinkled them on the snow, making a trail of breadcrumbs to the yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway of the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs. The birds continued to flap around helplessly in the snow, and they continued to ignore him. He tried catching them, but he could not. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around and waving his arms. Instead, they scattered in every direction except into the warm, lighted barn. And that's when he realized they were afraid of him. To them, he reasoned, I am a strange and terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I'm not trying to hurt them, but help them. But how? Any move he made tended to frighten them and confuse them. They just would not follow. They would not be led or shooed because they feared him. He thought to himself, if only I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language, then I could tell them not to be afraid. Then I could show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I would have to be one of them so they could see and hear and understand. At that moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sounds of the wind. He stood there listening to the bells pealing, Adeste Fidelis, come all ye faithful, the glad tidings of Christmas. And he sank to his knees in the snow. Why did God become a baby? Because of our original sin, because of the fall, we are afraid of him. God became a baby to put himself into relationship with us. God became a baby because we are afraid of him, and he became a baby to put himself in relationship with us. God made himself the most vulnerable person on the planet, a baby. Without grandeur, without majesty, but a small infant wrapped in rags, born in the piercing cold, and laid in a feeding trough for animals. This is God's way of coming close to us. This is God's way of coming close to us. He becomes a baby. But I'm not sure that we really want a baby. And the angels' good news with glory and light to the shepherds was that they would find a sign, an infant wrapped in rags lying in a feeding trough. And for centuries, Israel had waited for the good news of the coming of a Savior, and this is what it was. A baby in rags in a feeding trough. There's your sign. And I'm not sure that we really want that sign. Our lives are difficult, and we suffer, and we carry with us the burdens of life, and we want God to be strong and powerful and to make his way into our lives and make things better and make things easier and take away our suffering and remove our plights. I'm not so sure we want a baby. When we're drowning and overwhelmed in life, God hands us a baby, himself. But we come up with a lot of excuses. And we know we live in a society in our American culture that really doesn't welcome babies. Because a baby changes everything. And you talk to any parent, at the moment they have their first child, the moment that the first child is ever conceived, their lives are different. They're parents. They can never go back to the way things were. Life is changed forever because of a baby. A baby calls us to be the best of ourselves. God became a baby to put himself into relationship with us. And so how do we, my brothers and sisters, how do we relate to a baby? How do you relate to a baby? You hold it. You hold a baby. And when you hold a baby in your arms, you realize that all your priorities change. And holding that child, nothing else matters but the baby in your arms. And all that baby wants is to be loved and to be held. And God comes to us as a baby that can't lift his head, that can't speak, it can't keep himself warm. He comes to us as a baby, and babies don't judge. They just know that they're being held and that they're loved. And so the challenge of Christmas is that. The reality is that Christmas celebrates that God became a baby, and that you and I can't define God for ourselves. That all the definitions that float around of who God is or what he is and how he should be doesn't matter, because this is who God is. He became a baby. He became one of us to put himself in a relationship with us. This is who God is. He's defined himself by becoming a baby. And so this Christmas, we're invited to do what? In this time of gift giving, what do we give to the baby Jesus? He only wants one thing. You. That's all he wants, is you and me. And if we give our life to him, then he will give his life to us. And if we give our hearts to him, he will give his heart to us. If we hold on to him, and he will hold on to us. Merry Christmas. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.